Pool No Water, an examination of how to teach character and ensemble, an acting class focused on collaboration between multiple actors while trying to dig deep into themes and subject. Light the candles, bake the cake, sing the song, the gang's all here, we're here together. When I was a preteen, I loved stories of people who had invented or discovered things that helped humanity, and so I read lots of biographies of famous people, heroes and heroines, politicians, and especially those of people of science. Whenever possible, women of science, but I tried to stay open-minded. There's a little X there where I am in the back. Madame Curie, Florence Nightingale, Louis Pasteur were among my favorites. While I didn't take away a lot about pure science, I was fascinated by the notion of experimentation. I understood that a thesis was just a starting point, and that what you began with as a question might lead to a very different answer. When I first met Ames on this project, I proposed investigating a class I was about to teach, and she was not convinced that was a good idea, without knowing what the outcome would be. I thought it would be interesting to be working on concurrent paths, trying to solve a problem and tracking it. I had heard about Evergreen State College in Olympia, where students investigated everything about a subject, history, science, art, as part of the learning. I had long thought about how interesting it would be to go deep as a group about the themes of a play or plays in a particular class. The class I chose to experiment with was a junior level acting class called Character and Ensemble. This semester my class has 10 students. Students are expected to embrace learning outcomes that address exploring character in larger group scenes. I had not taught the class in 8 or 9 years and wondered, what did I need to do differently? One of the plays we were going to work on was called Pool No Water by British playwright Mark Ravenhill, a play about artistry and success and jealousy, with the characters going from being friends at art school to interacting in real life. It seemed to be a great play for our students struggling with imagining their own futures. In the play, set in the past, the characters tell of their friend, a highly sought-after conceptual artist who had invited them, less accomplished old friends from college, to visit her in Hollywood to give them a break from their difficult lives trying to find success. The friends, suffering from a love-hate relationship with their famous friend, ostensibly go to Hollywood to make peace. After they have arrived and been suitably affected by her home and lifestyle, she tries to impress them further. She wants to recreate moments from their shared past, and so, late in the night, she invites them all to skinny dip as they had when they were younger, in what she does not know is an empty pool. And she gets naked and jumps in first and is horribly injured. At first, they are all shocked into inaction, but finally, an ambulance is called. All the friends go to the hospital, but the artist is unconscious and hovering between life and death, which is a state she will remain in for several months. Her body is covered in bruises and attached to multiple wires and machines. After their initial horror and fear, they realize that their friend's mangled body could be artful, and they see a show and fame in their future. They settled into their borrowed lives with trainers and cooks and track their new project on computer. When the woman recovers, however, she decides to make the project her own. And the friends, envious, destroy all the photos, destroying the friendship in the process. We talked about moments of jealousy the students have already had, and I shared some stories of my own with friends, colleagues, and even students who have had a different kind of success than I have, and what that feels like, and some thoughts about how to handle those feelings. I thought it would be interesting for the students who had considered the themes of the play anecdotally to look at some topics from a psychological perspective. I made up a list for research, which came from an earlier brainstorming session with the students, and put them in teams. We had a session with the research librarian about using the resources. I was totally engaged. Most of the students were snoozing. They then did their research, successful in using databases, but not moving from the library computer bank to the stacks. How much closer could I have brought them to books to have them engage? You can bring a horse to water. Anyways, the next class, we did share about the topics and looked at images on paper, not their computers, which was a good thing, and were able to have what seemed to be a deeper conversation about the difference between jealousy and envy, and it informed their investigation into the play. I asked the students to dress as their characters for the beach, and this is the Chicago fall interpretation of that look. we began rehearsal. One of the challenges of the play is that it is not broken down into specific characters, and there is no back and forth dialogue between the individuals. The strongest element of the play is its storytelling. I edited the play for the class in assigned lines, sometimes choral, trying to find a narrative through line for each actor character. I found, however, that the challenge of the class was not so much in deep engagement with the play's themes, but the technical challenges of the material. So, for instance, the reality of the locations was in contrast with the language of the play, which is poetic. They found it difficult to make the interaction between characters natural and not robotic. Also, memorization. I discovered that this was actually an unexpressed learning outcome of working in ensemble, as in a two-person scene, an actor speaks when the other actor stops talking. In this choral piece, there are 10 actors, and they had to really identify when they spoke and what was causing them to speak. Finally, in this portion of the play, it is clear that for artists who find art in the mundane nature of the everyday experience, the question is, what is art and what is only a childish scrawl? Is it only marketing and management that separates the successful from the failed? If that is true, is there really any currency in jealousy? Discovering the challenges of the class level and content led me to rethink the ordering of the class session